40 years later, they are still haunted by the guilt.
All the choices I made, I had real problems accepting I did this. How can I be?
They come back to the battlefield to say sorry.
Our air war was vicious and brutal and horribly traumatizing to the Vietnamese people.
To remember fallen brothers.
I see you day and night, oh my brother.
And to bury their stories.
We are here together in part to allow the past to come back to us. Stories of so much pain and loss as my brothers carry get buried in our own minds and hearts and souls because the pain is so immense.
Vietnam, the stories that haunt soldiers' hearts.
You're welcome back to the program. Islamic State militants have reportedly killed 40 members of a rival rebel faction in Syria. It comes as the US steps up airstrikes to support so-called moderate militant groups. Meanwhile, a former US intelligence chief has admitted Washington's backing of Islamist factions actually helped the rise of ISIL.
Who wasn't listening?
I think the administration.
So the administration turned a blind eye to your analysis.
I don't know if they turned a blind eye. I think it was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al-Qaeda, and Muslim
a willful
Brotherhood.
decision to do what they're doing.
Michael Flynn was referring to a 2012 memo from the Defense Intelligence Agency, classified earlier this summer. It said radical groups, including Al-Qaeda, are the driving force behind the Syrian insurgency, which the US and its allies supported. The Pentagon's analysts warn this could result in the creation of a radical principality in Syria, which is exactly what happened. The Islamic State of Iraq, which went on to form the backbone of ISIL, was named as the main candidate for creating the terrorist entity. The US State Department dodged journalists' questions over why the Pentagon's warnings weren't heeded.
What's happening currently does chime in with the prediction we now know that the Defense Intelligence Agency made in 2012 that a Salafist principality might grow up in eastern Syria and western Iraq. And that, in fact, that was the policy. That's what the goal of the GCC countries, your allies in the region. Would you accept that?
Well,
that's
I
what's
think you're
happening?
making a number of sort of sweeping generalizations.
It was the Defense Intelligence Agency.
Well, I haven't read the
2012.
whole DIA report.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go back and pull that and take a look at it.
Well, some key US officials didn't seem bothered by the Pentagon's warnings either. In 2013, Senator John McCain was pictured inside Syria with top rebel commanders. Some of them were later identified as hardened criminals. Washington's ambassador to Syria also posed with a rebel colonel who went on to admit he collaborates with Islamic State.
My relationship with the brothers in ISIL is good. I communicate almost daily with my brothers in ISIL to settle disputes.
Well, none of the key warring factions in Syria can actually be considered moderate. That's according to Dilly Hussain, deputy editor of British Muslim news website 5 Pillars UK.
An overwhelming number of the Syrian rebels are Islamically orientated. Yes, they are fighting ISIS, but equally, even the grassroots, homegrown rebel factions are very strongly Islamically orientated. So I think what's actually happening here is the advancement of ISIS is actually helping the US agenda in the region. And that is to keep its troops in the area, to keep some sort of influence and to maintain and protect its hegemony in the area and its socio-political and economic interests.
To more news from around the world now. 2 people have been killed and another injured in a stabbing at an IKEA store in Västerås, Sweden. Police say a suspect has been arrested. The area surrounding the store has been closed off and an investigation is underway. A suicide bomber has attacked a checkpoint near Kabul's international airport, killing 4. At least 15 others were injured. Local media reports that the bomber was targeting a convoy of armoured vehicles. No group has admitted carrying out the attack. Typhoon Soudelor battered eastern China over the weekend, leaving up to 14 people dead, with 4 more missing. The storm caused mudslides in mountainous areas and severe flooding. Officials declared a state of emergency in the region, with the storm also halting travel. Over 500 flights were cancelled, as were train services. Prior to the storm, authorities had ordered over 150,000 residents to be evacuated from their homes. Losing the gift of sight is a life-shattering experience, but it hasn't stopped one Spanish photographer from carrying on with his work. These images were taken by Juan Torre, who went almost completely blind at the age of 30 as a result of a rare disease. He explained what allows him to continue capturing those picture-perfect moments.
There are generally two reasons why I keep taking photographs. First, I use the technologies in modern cameras. I take photos using the sound, notifications and cameras help me, especially autofocus. Secondly, I take pictures because it used to be my profession when I worked in media. I usually use a lens with a long-range zoom like 300 millimeters and choose what I want to shoot. I use it like a telescope. This is how I understand which image I want to get, and then I focus.
Mr. Torre's latest project involves a new technique, so the pictures can literally be felt by those who can't see them. The images are printed on aluminium boards with a special kind of ink. The photographer says he aims to help other visually impaired people through his work.
I think that my art inspires both able-bodied people and the blind. The project is interesting not only in its artistic value, but also with its social value. It is some sort of equalization. I mean, people with certain capabilities can meet at the exhibition, and standing in front of the picture, both people with sight and blind people can comment on it, each using his capabilities, one by looking and the other by touching. But in the end of the day, they can discuss the same image. This is how blind people are able to understand the language of photography.
Online for you right now. India begins to see the global obsession with yoga as a threat to its traditional practice. The country is currently creating a video database of more than 1,000 poses in a bid to protect them from being patented by the West. The details can be found on RT.com. While you're there, to be or not to be? Hi. Check out new findings by South African scientists who believe William Shakespeare could have been under the influence while writing his works. Now, the latest story of surveillance comes with a twist. This time, it's got nothing to do with the controversial spying practices of the NSA. Rather, it's about the ordeal one New York family has endured at the hands of an angry landlord. Here's Brina Portnaya with the details.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars.
91-year-old Ruth Burke retired from the stage more than a decade ago.
I sang on Broadway. I sang in cabarets.
Till this day, she still sings in her New York City apartment that she shares with her daughter, Jessica.
Myself and my husband entered the building in 1955 when we got married.
But in recent years, their lives have been under constant surveillance. Anyone entering or leaving the Burkes' home would be under the watchful eye of the landlord. 5 video cameras were installed directly facing the Burkes' front door. 2 at the end of the hallway, 1 right here, 2 more on either sides. Now, the landlord never warned the Burkes that the cameras were being installed.
When I opened my front door, from the way the bathroom is situated, you could see who's ever in the bathroom. So whoever was coming out of the shower would be observed naked. Who's ever sitting on the toilet would be naked because the bathroom door didn't close.
The Burkes have been in a legal battle for decades with their landlord over their $700 a month rent-regulated apartment.
They want the apartment. It's very simple, darling.
On the market, Ruth's 2-bedroom penthouse at 95 Christopher Street can reportedly rent for at least $10,000 per month.
I think the reason for keeping the cameras there very openly and notoriously was to harass them and make them want to get out of there.
Ruth Burke's attorney and guardian, Arthur Schwartz, unplugged the cameras last month and sent them to the state attorney's office. Removing the spy cams resulted in a police complaint. The landlord claims Schwartz stole $4,000 of equipment. Earlier this month, the prominent lawyer was arrested and charged with grand larceny.
They put me in a police car, handcuffed. I walked out in the street, handcuffed with my hands behind my back, took me in a police car. to the central booking.
Schwartz is due back in court in October. His client, meanwhile, is determined to stay put.
Let me live until I die. Okay? I'm not going anyplace. They want me out. I don't want to go out. I'm happy here. This is where I live.
Ruth's building management has ignored RT's repeated requests for comment. Their tenant, meanwhile, remains resilient in front of our camera.
In other words, I love you.
Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.
That's what you call fighting spirit. Afshin Rattansi, he's up here next with the latest edition of Going Underground. Stay with us.